Hello fellow YouTubers, I'm Cassandra Joy and welcome to my channel. Today I want to share with you all of my favorite things that I love during the autumn season. Some of them I've loved throughout the years, some are new discoveries, but all of them are things that make me feel cozy and warm and at home in the autumn season. Today our main focus is going to be books and movies, and there are quite a few, so I would suggest to go get yourself a cup of something warm, grab a blanket, turn on your twinkly fairy lights, and get cozy. The first book I want to talk about is a very well-loved book called Now You Die by Christiane Hagen. This was actually something I found in a little hole-in-the-wall local bookstore. I've mentioned it in vlogs before. It's called Around About Books, where everything is always half price. I'm positive I mentioned it in my Christmas vlog last year. There's nothing that makes me feel cozier than a good whodunit. I'll try to tell you a little bit about it without giving away the entire story. It's about a girl named Zoe who is a cartoonist for a newspaper. She's very well known, as is her comic. Currently she's kind of dating, kind of friends with this cop friend named Joe, but she's not fully committed to him, and that's because she was married before to a man named Rick, who, even though their relationship has ended, they're still on cordial terms. That cuckoo clock is gonna drive me nuts. The mystery begins when she accidentally runs across a body of a woman named Lola Malone, who coincidentally was a singer at her ex-husband's bar. After finding the body, Zoe goes to the police, who are a little too slow for her taste, so she takes matters into her own hands and starts putting in little details of the murder into her comic, hoping that her fandom will be able to help her solve the mystery, which is a great idea until one overeager fan starts sending her threatening letters. Since they're anonymous, she has no idea who is sending them, but it gets to be so bad that she starts fearing for her safety. So she turns to her ex-husband, Rick, who, though they are separated, still cares deeply for her. Trying to set aside their differences, the two team up in an effort to find Lola. But the search turns hazardous when Zoe comes up with a new storyline based on the singer's disappearance, and immediately she becomes the killer's target. All evidence points to one of her fans, someone who will do whatever it takes to stop Zoe from finding out the truth. And I will say that this ending shocked me to my core. And I, as an avid reader and also a writer, I can pretty much figure out how books are going to end. And this book shocked me. I had to reread the page a couple times in order to make sure I was reading it correctly, because the character that ends up being the person threatening her and making all sorts of trouble for Zoe was the last person I would have expected. And I'll just leave it at that. The next book I want to talk about is a very witchy one. It's called A Discovery of Witches, and it's actually been turned into a TV show, and I think you can get it on the Sundance app. I'm one of those people who will download the app just so I can watch something within the trial period and then unsubscribe so I don't have to pay for anything. Give this video a like if you do the same thing. This story I am still in the process of reading. The TV show made me want to read the book. The back of the book reads, "An irresistible tale of wizardry, science, and forbidden love." Deep in the heart of Oxford's Bodleian Library, Diana Bishop, a young scholar and the descendant of witches, unearths an enchanted alchemical manuscript. Wanting nothing to do with sorcery, she banishes the book to the stacks. But her discovery has set a fantastical underworld stirring, and soon a horde of demons, witches, and other creatures descends upon the library. Among them is the enigmatic Matthew Claremont, a vampire with a keen interest in the book. Equal parts history and magic, romance and suspense, A Discovery of Witches is a mesmerizing and addictive tale of passion and obsession that reveals the closely guarded secrets of an enchanted world. The book is about a girl named Diana who descends from witches, but due to her parents' tragic deaths, has been put off magic completely. She doesn't want anything to do with her powers and tries very hard to not use them at all. Which turns out to not be a good thing because her magic spurts out at random times and she can't really control that. I will say the actor who plays Matthew Claremont in the TV show is perfect for the role. It's not one of those stories where romance happens right off the bat. There's a lot of mistrust, there's a lot of uncertainty between the two of them, and I like that because it's not instant satisfaction. The three species, demons, witches, and vampires, are all sort of mistrustful of each other. There are exceptions. Matthew Claremont is friends with a demon, which I would like to say the demons are not demons. They're just very creative and passionate people who have incredible creative talents, and a lot of times can easily get swept up in their passions. Witches are pretty self-explanatory, vampires are pretty self-explanatory. I liked that each of the three species had areas of the world that they inhabited and it suited their species. For instance, Matthew Claremont is a scientist. He studies things to do with blood, but it's such a good read. It's one of the most unique stories I've read. And those are hard to find anymore. So when I do find them, I want to tell the world about them. The next book I want to talk about is also a witchy one. It's called Practical Magic, and it was turned into a movie with Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman. Since reading the book, I've discovered that the movie is completely different than the book, so bear that in mind. It's by Alice Hoffman, and it's about these two sisters who lose their parents and are adopted by their two eccentric aunts. They live in a very unusual house with a very unusual garden full of herbs that most people would never think to grow, a house that seems to have a mind of its own, and aunts that have a very interesting side job, and aunts who have a deep understanding of how to make people's dreams come true. It's very interesting and non-traditional in what we think we know about witches and magic. And the one thing I love is that I'm pretty positive that it never calls the girls or the aunts witches. Other people do, but them themselves don't call themselves that. And the things they do to help people are never called spells. I'll read the back and hopefully that will give you a clearer indication of what this book is about. For more than 200 years, the Owens women have been blamed for everything that has gone wrong in their Massachusetts town. Jillian and Sally have endured that fate as well. As children, the sisters were forever outsiders, taunted, talked about, pointed at. Their elderly aunts almost seemed to encourage the whispers of witchery with their musty house and their exotic concoctions and their crowd of black cats. But all Jillian and Sally wanted was to escape. One will do so by marrying, the other by running away, but the bonds they share will bring them back, almost as if by magic. Things really get interesting when both girls ditch their aunts and say, I want a normal life, I want to move away, I don't want to be part of this town anymore, I don't want to be associated with witchery and magic. So Sally moves away, and Jillian runs off with a guy, and don't see each other for over 10 years, but they keep in contact by letters, until Jillian all of a sudden shows up on Sally's doorstep with a body in the trunk. And that's where I'm at. And let's just say I have a feeling that the body they buried won't stay buried for long. As much as I love a fantastical, enchanting story that takes me somewhere else entirely, gotta say, I have a soft spot in my heart for the classics, like Pride and Prejudice. I tell people all the time, the movie with Keira Knightley is my favorite rendition of Pride and Prejudice ever. Books are obviously always better, but that movie comes pretty close. I feel like I don't even need to describe Pride and Prejudice. Most people have heard about it, or at least watched the movies. But I'll give you a small description anyway, for those of you who have never heard of it or watched any of the movies. This is in the Victorian-ish era, where women are expected to grow up and get married. That is their point in life. You're not really supposed to have any grander ambitions than that. Elizabeth Bennet is one of 5 sisters, and the relationship between all of them is so cute. Elizabeth herself is so sarcastic in her dialogue. Girl after my own heart. I always tell people sarcasm is my first language and English is my second, and Elizabeth Bennet is no exception. She isn't exactly against marriage, but she's not in a rush to get the deed done, because she wants to marry for love and not necessarily for rank, status, or money, especially after she meets a man named Fitzgerald Darcy. And despite this first impression, Elizabeth does try to get him out of his shell a little bit, make jokes, lighten the air, because he's making it a little bit awkward, and he's not impressed. His mood does not budge, and so she decides, you know what? I don't need to waste my time on you. You want to stay a sourpuss? That's fine. So she goes about her life until she finds out that Darcy, amidst all his rudeness, likes her. She doesn't know what to do with that because she does not like him. Absolutely cannot stand the man, which, as you can imagine, causes some very interesting plot twists. I won't give away the ending, but I will say that it is definitely worth your time. Last but not least is a book of poems. I feel like I've said it on my Instagram at least, that I love Atticus Poetry. I would give anything to meet him. I would give anything to have coffee and just pick his brain a little bit. Not even pick his brain, just have a conversation. Just chat about everything and nothing. He's such a brilliant, relatable mind, but it's just so raw and genuine, relatable. It's all about love and the highs and lows of it, and it's just magic. I'm not sure how else to describe this book to you, but it's definitely worth your time, and I guarantee you won't be disappointed by its contents. So, on to movies. We're gonna start with hello. We're gonna start with a mysterious, creepy, cozy one. Those words don't sound like they go together, but they do. It's Red Riding Hood. This is also a book, and the movie is almost identical to the book. The book was beyond amazing. The audiobook was good too. But this movie, it's so good. It's so good. On the theme of twisted fairy tales, this is very much in that vein. It's Red Riding Hood like you've never heard it before, and it's so good. It's Amanda Seyfried. The acting is superb. The storyline keeps you engaged, and the ending is perfect. It's got a little bit of that dark, twisty kind of vibe to it, which is perfect for autumn and upcoming Halloween time. So I would highly recommend adding this to your movie repertoire. As I mentioned before, I am a huge fan of Pride and Prejudice, specifically the movie with Keira Knightley. It's so good. It's so cozy, and the drama isn't so intense that you feel anxiety or dread, but it has just enough to keep you wanting to watch until the end. The ending is amazing. If I could pick a movie to live in, this would be among my top 3. In addition to the witchy vein of autumn, I would highly recommend Charmed. The 6th season is my favorite season. I can't tell you why, because it gives away the entire plot. All the seasons are great, but this is my favorite. They add a character that I love, and it throws a wrench in the entire series in a good way. Charmed is about 3 sisters who are witches, one of which doesn't even know that she's a witch until she meets these 2 and finds out that they are related and that they're sisters. Piper has the power to freeze things. Phoebe has the power of premonition, so she can foresee the future in flashes. And Paige has the power of telekinesis. She can move things with her mind. And one thing I really love is that Piper, if you start from the first season, I can't tell you who Piper is married to, because at that point she's not married to him yet. But the person she ends up marrying, she stays married to the entire collection of seasons. And I love that. It gets really old when couples have an on again, off again, on again, off again relationship just for the sake of drama. I love when marriage is considered a wholesome, respected thing, and these two definitely respect it. They have their ups and downs still as a couple, but they never get divorced. It's them two against the world, and it's the most romantic thing ever. It's one of the few relationships on TV that you see that's actually wholesome. They have hard times, but they work through them. They even go to marriage counseling. I love that. It's just so real. Amidst all of the magic and the amazing, there's still that core realism and that rare belief that marriage is sacred. That's just a couple things that I love about the series. It's so much more than that. But yeah, if you're looking for a magical escape, Charmed is the place to go. It is on Netflix, so if you have Netflix, you can watch it there. Next on the list is an oldie but a goodie. It's Thumbelina. I don't know if you grew up with this movie or not, but I had a huge crush on Cornelius. Who's this guy right here? It was between him, Prince Eric from Little Mermaid, and Peter Pan. Those were my top cartoon crushes. Ooh, and Derek from The Swan Princess. I had a few. This movie is about a young lady who is the size of your thumb, thus her name being Thumbelina. She lives with her mother, who is human-sized, until she, by chance, meets a fairy prince named Cornelius. And this includes music, which I love, and the voice of Thumbelina is the voice of Ariel. For a long time, I didn't know that, and when I found that out, I understood why I loved her character so much. Because if you didn't know, Ariel is my favorite Disney princess ever, and you can't convince me any of the other princesses are better than her. Just saying. She goes off on adventures with Cornelius. He flies her around, sweeps her off her feet, and she's very much in love by the end of the evening. He promises to come back in the morning and introduce her to his parents, but during the night, she gets kidnapped. Throughout the movie, the seasons change, so you get to see everything start from summer to autumn to even winter. And when you're the size of someone's thumb, those changing weather conditions can be very brutal. At one point in the wintertime, she curls up in a stray sock just to keep warm. And all the while, Cornelius is on a mission to find Thumbelina, and he's always just a few steps behind. He finds where she's been, but he can't seem to catch up to where she is. And all the while, she thinks that Cornelius is dead, so she isn't even looking for him. So she keeps moving. She's not worried about him finding her because she thinks that he's gone. It's a lovely, adorable film. Kid-friendly if you want to watch it with your family, and it has a happy ending. Next is a classic that I've loved for many years, and apparently there was a scandal about people wanting to remake it into like a new version, like they've done with the Disney movies. They've made them live action, they've taken a different twist on the stories, and they were wanting to do the same with this movie, The Princess Bride. If you have not watched it, if you haven't watched it, I don't want to say you've been living under a rock, but you might just be. It's one of those movies that I think everybody quotes and everybody knows. It's a movie that you have to watch at least once a year. It's just an unspoken requirement. The acting is superb, it's funny, it's full of adventure, it's romantic, it's just the best. It's ridiculous and fantastic, and it's just the best. So like I said, there was some drama about wanting to make this into a new movie.
And the scandal was that the fandom wanted none of it. They refused to have a new movie be made of a movie that was already perfect.
Which, by the way, this is a book. I didn't know that, but this is a book, and it's verbatim. I was shocked and amazed. Reading the book was literally like watching the movie, with just a few extra descriptional details added. Let me give you a story synopsis before explaining the scandal. Not scandal, but like light drama. Buttercup, yes, that's her name, Buttercup, is the daughter of a well-to-do man, enough to have servants like Wesley. Wesley is a farm boy who takes care of things around the farm. She is a bit spoiled and likes to boss him around, basically being bratty to him. And all the while, she has zero idea that he is head over heels in love with her. And then one day she finds out and realizes that she loves him too. And then their epic love story begins. They plan to get married, they plan to have a life together, but Wesley wants to earn some money before they get married because you can't live on a farmer boy's income. So he runs off to find a job and he never comes back. When the prince of the country finds Buttercup and asks her to marry him, she says yes. So she's living in the castle currently, engaged to a pompous, horrible, ridiculous prince. She really only ever loved Wesley. She doesn't really care if she gets married to the prince. She just wants a distraction from her sorrow. And one of the things that she does to distract herself is go on a daily horseback ride. During one of those rides, she gets kidnapped by a band of thugs who are just the best. Full of comedy, this part of the movie is. And then she's rescued by a man in a black mask. And I feel like you know where this storyline is going, but I'll leave it there just in case you don't. I don't want to spoil anything for you. It's an adventure, but it's lighthearted, and it's got comedy and thrill, and it's one of the most quotable movies I think that has ever existed. If you don't come away from watching this quoting half the movie, you didn't watch it right. And that concludes my autumn favorites. I feel like I just shared a section of my diary with you, because the movies that I watch and the books that I read are such a part of me. It almost feels like a diary entry that I just ripped out of the journal and handed over to you. They're all things that make me feel the relaxation and the calm, which is all perfect for the autumn season. If you'd like to see more of my favorite seasonal things, please let me know in the comment section down below. I can include homestyle things like these pumpkins that I got, clothing options, jewelry, makeup, all those kind of favorites. Let me know which of those things you'd like to see in the comment section down below. Don't forget to give this video a like so that I know that you liked it. And please, please, if you do nothing else, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you're always notified when I upload something new. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Love you guys. Mwah. Bye!